dedicated YCW publisher. And he also came into contact at this period with the political philosophy of Jacques Maritain. And though Santa Maria was in constant contact with him, apparently by letter, Molony was starting to wonder about the political philosophy of this particular man called Santa Maria. And of course Cardijn in Australia. At this stage Molony is chaplain to the Ballarat YCW, and that was a huge event in the life of the YCW in this country.
Bill Armstrong's mum's in that picture.
Is that right?
It's me, Auntie,
And I just want to finish up with just a little dedication to something that influenced my life as a YCW chaplain in my early days. I titled my book Towards an Apostolic Laity, and this is the book that Molony wrote in 1960. And I was given this book when I took up my first YCW chaplaincy in 1967 in the town of Goulburn in New South Wales. See, we did have it there. It was only Sydney that was recalcitrant. And he writes in his Molony, "My first book, and thus my major publication in those years, was Towards an Apostolic Laity, published in Melbourne in 1960. I had help with it from Vin Fennelly and Brian Burke. The book dealt exclusively with Catholic action, and in particular with the YCW. As a kind of guidebook for priests, the contents are earnest, thoughtful, dry, and certainly impersonal. I have often been surprised, stunned is a better word, when in later years I have met priests here and there who have thanked me for it. They said it was a great help to them in their priestly work in the apostolate of Catholic action." And if John Nayland Molony walked into this room right now, I would line up to thank him for it, frankly, because it had a huge influence on my life as a young YCW chaplain in those days. But it's not the only one I'd like to thank. The names that come into my mind, and they're not exclusive list, would be people like Kevin Smith, who had this wonderful phrase. He didn't like using four-letter words in public, the real four-letter words, but he used to say Avis all bishops, because Avis was the only four-letter word he could use in polite company. Chaplains like Paul Willey, Frank Hornby. These are names that the Melbourne people will sort of be relating with. Jim Nippard, Brian Burke. These people taught me a hell of a lot about what it means to be YCW, mostly in the house opposite the 6 furlong post in Caulfield Racecourse. Other significant people in my memories were the girls' president, Marg Burgess, one of the most wonderful women I think I've ever met, apart from my wife, Judy Crowe, who was a full-time worker for the movement, and she and I married in 1974. As one guy said, one thing about the YCW, it provided some great wives for some great priests. There was this full-time worker called Leon Kavanagh. I don't know if any of you remember Leon Kavanagh. Guido, you might remember him, yeah. He was the Don Juan of the YCW. He broke more women's hearts around this country than you can poke a stick at.
What about Gary McDonald?
Oh yeah, Gazza wasn't bad either, let me say. National executive people like Aileen McShane, the National Treasurer, who's still around Melbourne somewhere. I haven't caught up with her for a long time. National Boys President Peter Mullins. Full-timers like Teresa Chevalier and my wife Judy Crowe, who were full-timers in southern New South Wales. People like the Walshes, Tim and Jean, and so many others that you just can't lay the memory to, and a failing memory for an old man like me to remember. But these are some of my memories attached to John Nayland Molony's memories. Thank you for letting me share them.